Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I have a juicy topic for you today. But first, I want to ask, are you an emotional eater or a food addict? If you don't know, you can take a free quiz on my website, healyourhunger.com, and find out. You can actually get a personalized score. So jump over to healyourhunger.com when you have a chance and take the quiz. It's free, it's awesome, and it gives you very specific steps based on your score. Also, are you in the secret sauce group? Okay, this is a Facebook group where you can jump in, and I do live videos. I'm actually currently on a trip in Europe, and so I'm posting regularly about my trip, and it's only going there in the Secret Sauce group. So check it out on Facebook. It's a secret sauce to end emotional eating. Okay, on with the show. Let me start with a few questions.
Do you eat until you're stuffed? Do you intend to eat just a moderate amount and then go overboard and feel terrible? Do you lay on the couch just wanting the pain to subside? And then when the pain subsides, do you sometimes go back to the kitchen and eat more? Or perhaps you swear off of a certain food because you feel so sick after eating it. But then, days later, you're eating it again. Or maybe you've done what I've done, and you've thrown the remainder of that food out. Like you can't possibly eat any more, so you throw it out and you swear you're never going to eat it again. And then you actually retrieve the remains from the trash. Have you ever done that? I talk about that on my TEDx talk, and it's amazing how many people have commented. Thousands of people have commented and said, I've done that. Well, what I'm about to do is share with you 5 different reasons why you eat until you're stuffed. I've done it. I was 50 pounds overweight on account of it. And I want to share with you what happens when we overeat, why we do that, and what's going on in our minds and in our subconscious. You ready? All right, let's do this. Okay, so before I talk about the 5 reasons you eat until you're stuffed, I want to talk to you about emotional eating. Now, that might be a term you're not familiar with or that you don't relate to or think it applies to you. I want to tell you that if you're somebody who has chronically struggled with food and weight, if you're somebody who has been up and down the scale many times, perhaps you even have several sizes of pants in your closet because you never know what size you're going to be. That was me, maybe 4 to 5 sizes. If that's the story of your life, chances are you use food for emotional reasons. It's not that you just like food. I used to think I just like food, but then I started to notice my patterns with food, and they were compulsive, they were obsessive, meaning I couldn't stop myself, that's the compulsive part, and then I obsessed about food, that's the obsessive part. So if you feel like you have a little compulsion and obsession around food, what that stems from is an emotional connection with food, using food for more than just pleasure, using food beyond nutritional need, using food for comfort, for protection, for entertainment, to keep you company at night when you're lonely, to help with boredom, perhaps to console yourself when you've had a bad week. If you relate to any of this, chances are you're an emotional eater. And you can actually take a quiz on my website, healyourhunger.com, to find out exactly where you are on the emotional eating spectrum. But I digress. I want to share these 5 reasons why you eat until you're stuffed, but I wanted to start with the emotional eating kind of premise. So number 1, the first reason why you eat until you're stuffed has to do with the fact that early on in our lives, for many of us, food was there for us when nobody else was. I as a kid turned to food to get through very uncomfortable situations. For me, it was sexual abuse. There are a lot of good things about my childhood. That was not one of them. Okay, so I had sexual abuse as a kid. Many emotional eaters have. All right, we're using food, again, for emotional reasons to get through painful circumstances. But for you, it might have been a parent who was alcoholic or drug addicted. Perhaps you had an absent parent. Perhaps there was extreme financial instability or poverty. But the point is, the pain you experienced as a kid and then numbed with food set up a very instinctual subconscious belief that food was saving your life. As a kid, we don't have a lot of coping tools. We don't have a way to get through really painful things. We're limited, but food was there. Food was in the kitchen. For me, it was buttered bread, cinnamon toast, cereal, cookies, gross homemade cookie dough with some butter and sugar and Kellogg's cornflakes. I did what I could to get a hold of food so that I didn't feel bad. I'd watch TV, I'd sit on the couch, I'd eat popcorn, and I'd do it so that I could numb out. And so what happened as a kid is food did save my life. And so when you're an adult, you have a subconscious belief that not only did food save your life and food continues to save your life, but that to be hungry means to die. Very subconscious. This is not a conscious thing. Very subconscious. To be hungry is to die. And so we stuff ourselves in this instinctual, impulsive need to never be hungry. Because to be hungry is to die. If you relate to that, if you can see any bit of truth in that, I hope you'll leave a comment. Now, the second reason you're stuffing yourself is because to have fat on our bodies and to have food in our tummies often feels like a protection. And again, this may go back to trauma in our childhood. I know for myself, I did experience sexual abuse. That weight on a subconscious level felt like a protection to me. Like perhaps somebody else wasn't going to be interested in me sexually if I have this excess weight. It's so typical for us. Anybody who walks around in an obese body, it needs to take a look at the fact that that obesity may be serving you. On a subconscious level, again, we don't say, I'm going to build up a whole big wall of fat and protect myself in this world. No, we're like, I want to get this weight off. I hate it. But you got to take a look at how it might be serving you and how you might have subconscious beliefs that it's keeping you safe. Okay, it's a very common thing. And you can get over that. You don't have to live with that belief. You don't have to play into that belief by remaining obese, but you got to take a look at how it might be serving you to be obese, what the untrue beliefs are hidden within your subconscious that somehow that fat is keeping you safe. Now, the third reason why we often stuff ourselves is simply because when we're stuffed, we're numb. What are we numb to? We're numb to our feelings. And friends, I've been working with emotional eaters for 35 years now. I've rarely met an emotional eater that wasn't afraid of feeling their emotions. That's why we're emotional eaters. We eat to stuff our emotions. We eat to numb. We eat to check out and not feel. That's why overcoming emotional eating is a big job, and it takes a ton of support and a real process. Because if you're afraid to feel your feelings, getting hungry is really scary. Because what happens with hunger is you start to feel. If you eat less, you're going to feel more. So you better have a way of coping with those feelings. You better have a very specific system for addressing those feelings in a healthy way so you don't go back to the food. And I honestly believe that's why 98% of all diets fail, is that diets don't give you tools to deal with your emotions. You take away all your favorite foods on a diet, sure, you're going to feel great at first, like, I'm doing it, I'm on this new diet. I call it new diet syndrome. But it pales after a couple weeks. Like, you're like, oh my God, this is such a slog. I can't do it for much longer. Well, that's because all the feelings are coming up and the diet gave you no tools for dealing with them. All it did is give you food suggestions, right? Exercise suggestions, calorie in suggestions, calorie out suggestions. Nothing about dealing with your emotional self. You got to have that if you expect to lose weight, keep it off. The fourth reason why you may be stuffing yourself is that when we overeat, when we stuff ourselves and we don't feel, we also don't deal in reality. My experience is we eat so that we don't have to really face the pain of our lives, the pain of our choices. You know, when we stay stuffed, we don't have to get real. We can play make-believe. And we do it really well. I've never met a more fantastical thinker than an emotional eater. We just live in our heads dreaming up what we want to be true. And another reason why 98% of all diets fail is because if you start losing weight and your feelings start coming up, you're going to be faced with some harsh realities that you weren't facing when you were numbed out with food. When you weren't feeling anything, you're like, life is great. You know, the alcoholic husband bump on a log is great. I got no problems. Everything's great, right? But if you stop overeating, if you stop stuffing yourself, the results of your choices, the reality of your life is going to be showing up. It's going to be in your face. And if you don't have a way to deal with that, you're going to be like, OMG, I'm going back to my food. This is a deeper conversation, friends. You may not be ready for it, but I owe you the truth, okay? I have been researching overeating and emotional eating for several decades. I am somebody who's healed from emotional eating. I was 50 pounds overweight, and I didn't live in reality. But in order to heal, in order to lose those 50 pounds and keep them off, I had to get real, which means I had to face the pain. Now, that might sound really horrible. And you may be looking up, where to find the closest therapist. Thank goodness therapists are on Zoom now. But the fact is, you don't have to have 20 years of therapy in order to face reality. You need a system for facing your emotions without turning to food. You know, by writing, by talking, by getting support, getting community with people who are facing their lives head on without numbing out with food, you can do this. All right? Is it easy? No. That's why people prefer to just obsess about diets. What's the next diet? Let me do the next diet. They're on the roller coaster ride of losing weight, feeling great, then, life getting hard, going back to the food, feeling crappy, overeating until it's time for the next diet, losing weight and feeling great, getting a bump in the road and going back to the food and gaining weight and feeling crappy. I mean, look at your own experience. It's years, if not decades, of that roller coaster ride, and you deserve better. So, my experience is, you got to face the music. You got to face the truth about your life. And if you do, you can have a better life. Friends, I'm living my best life right now. I have an amazing life, but it's only because I got real. Trust me, if you're overeating, there's some painful parts of your life, and they just have to be addressed. Stop stuffing that pain with food. Okay, the fifth reason why we stuff ourselves is because food gives us a certain kind of courage. When we're eating, when we feel full, we kind of feel protected, like I've talked about already, and it gives us a certain boldness. Now, it also completely erodes our self-confidence when we gain weight. I'm very aware of that. I talk to women every single day that have lost so much confidence in their life because of their struggles with food and weight. And feeling ashamed of their weight and bad in their bodies and, not good in their clothes and all that. So it completely erodes our confidence. But in the moment, when we're full, we feel like we can do things we're afraid to do. And this was me. I used food to do things I was afraid to do. I was afraid of lots of things growing up. I was afraid of skiing, downhill skiing, but it's what I did. I did it with my family. And then I started doing it with my friends. And I learned that I could drink to feel less afraid skiing. So I would drink, like I'd drink some peppermint schnapps or something, and then I could just barrel ass down the hill. Boom! No fear. Well, I did the same thing with food. I was afraid to audition for plays. I did a lot of theater when I was younger. So I would eat and then I wouldn't feel so afraid. Or I would have a sports game and I chose, because I'm a little nuts, I chose to be goalie in 2 different sports. But it was so hard because I got these balls pelted at me and I had bruises all over my body. Well, I learned that if I ate a whole bunch of macaroni and cheese and tater tots before a game, I didn't feel anything. It was a way to numb myself, and it was a way to feel more courageous in a really scary situation. You've heard of alcohol as liquid courage. My experience is carbs are solid courage. And that's another reason why we eat until we're stuffed. So the 5 things, to recap, are: 1, is because we have a subconscious belief that to be hungry is to die and that food is saving our life. The second thing is that we feel protected by a full belly. We feel protected by a wall of fat in our bodies, if not consciously, at least subconsciously. And we got to take a look at that. The third thing is we numb ourselves with food. We just don't feel when we're stuffed. The fourth thing is you can make reality whatever you want. You can lie to yourself when you're stuffed and you're not connected with yourself. You're in your head. You're making it to be whatever you want it to be. Friends, the truth of who we are is in our being. It's in our heart. It's in our gut. If your tummy is full, you're not going to get those signals. If you're stuffed, you're not going to hear the still, small voice. That's why I often tell people, if you want to feel more connected to God, address your eating. Because when you're stuffed all the time, you can't hear God. You can't hear Spirit speaking to you, inspiring you, warning you. We're not connected. We're checked out. And the 5th is solid courage. Okay, solid courage. It just makes us feel emboldened when we're full. When we're full, we don't feel insecure. When we're full, we feel like I can do it, because we're not in touch with the fear. So these are the 5 reasons we overeat until we feel sick. There's others, of course, but these are ones you might not have heard of. That's what I like to do. I like to reveal the truth about emotional eating and what's really going on. So I hope this is helpful to you. I'm going to give you 5 things you can do right now to address this. The first thing is something I love called 3-meal magic, and that's eating 3 meals with nothing in between. If you put yourself on a 3-meal magic schedule, which is not easy to do, chances are you're going to need support for that. And if you want to reach out for support, I'm here for you. I'm happy to talk to you about how we can support you at Heal Your Hunger. But the 3-meal magic plan will cut out all the snacky foods between meals. And we often stuff ourselves on snacky foods. The next thing is close the kitchen at night. Not only do 3-meal magic, but at the last meal, when you're finished, don't go back there. Nighttime eating is a big problem for emotional eaters, and it's just better to have that boundary where the kitchen's off limits for now until morning. The next thing I recommend is having your meals all be roughly the same. So if you're doing 3-meal magic, don't eat a really small breakfast and a really big dinner. Like, my experience is you can get a better sense of what full is if you're eating the same amounts of food roughly at each meal. Then you can start to learn the hunger cues, the full cues. But when your eating's erratic and you're starving yourself part of the day, and then you're eating big meals when you open up a window, for perhaps if you're doing the fasting thing, you're off kilter, and you don't know what signals are what. So I find that the same general amount of food for each meal is super helpful for developing a keener sense of when I'm full and not too full. The fourth thing is watch your stress. Friends, emotional eaters take the cake, pardon the pun, on living stressful lives. And, there's a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to go into right now. But one of them is we like to be needed, right? We like to be praised for all we're doing for other people. We take on too much. We overcommit. We overdo. And then we're stressed. And then we stress eat. Okay, I just gave it to you in a nutshell. Stop overdoing. Stop overcommitting. Watch your stress. So important. And the fifth thing is self-care. Get some self-care in your life. Start your day in prayer. Start your day journaling about your feelings and thoughts. Dump those fears on paper. Connect with spirit. Meditate. Get on your knees. Walk in nature. Talk to whatever higher power is meaningful for you. But make a connection. Get connected with your divine self. And also calm yourself down. Start your day with a centering routine that helps you feel grounded and calm and connected. So, so important. Those are the 5 things that you can do right now to start getting on a better track. Stop stuffing yourself. Support is so important, so please be sure to reach out if we can be there for you. You deserve to have support. It's really hard to overcome emotional eating on your own. Why? Because food is everywhere. It's the hardest addictive habit to stop, especially when you don't have support. So reach out for support. You deserve it. And I'm sending you so much love.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this. And please share this with your friends. Please leave a review. We so appreciate that. And it helps us carry the message to those who struggle with food and weight, who are so tired of dieting. So share it with a girlfriend and leave a review. We would so appreciate that. I will see you on the next show.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.